Hi guys, 2022 was a great year for rFactor 2 from a content standpoint, if not from a financial perspective. On top of all this great content, we've also had LFM start actually racing using their ELO format for races and championships using rFactor 2. Now then seems like a fantastic time to start looking into buying some content for this game. Now LFM, they do run some races and championships that use free content alone, so you can join the fun without spending any additional money at all. However, today we're going to be looking at BTCC and the content that rFactor has brought along those lines. I was a big fan of the TOCA series back in the day, and I'm really keen to see what a reasonably modern graphics and physics engine can bring to the party. If the cars do not feel fun to drive and they're not well balanced, then the rest of the story is, well, meaningless. However, thankfully, rFactor does a good job. The cars feel realistically weighty with just enough grip for you to start throwing them around. With quite a few cars to choose from, and if BOP is reasonable, then that should be a preference of how they drive rather than those that drive fastest. We all know, however, that BOP is never 100% perfect, so hopefully rFactor's development team do a good job in making sure that when they introduce new vehicles that the balance isn't broken in any way. Whilst there are definitely going to be new cars on the way in 2023, the cars that we have so far are the BMW 330i, the Ford Focus ST, Hyundai i30 Fastback, the Infiniti Q50, the Toyota Corolla and the Vauxhall Astra. Both the BMW and the Infiniti are rear-wheel drive, however all of the other vehicles so far are front-wheel drive. In my ungifted hands they all feel really quite good. Maybe the Astra and the BMW just have the edge in at least these hands, but who knows which cars you're going to favour when you pick the game up. What I particularly like about rFactor and the BTCC cars is how nimble they are when you're driving them around. You can really feel when they're on the edge of the grip, and they are really quite nice to drive even in a pack of cars. And let's face it, when you're in a tin top you are going to be surrounded by other vehicles more often than not. The game then becomes more about balancing aggression, keeping a tighter line in order to preserve your position in the pack. That's where things get really quite tricky, but you've got just enough grip and just enough feel in this game to pull it off. We've all been there, one wrong move and you'll be limping back to the pits. However, in rFactor, not if you have a big accident, that's the end of your race. Luckily, however, the BTCC cars can take quite a pounding, so you shouldn't be in that scenario unless things go terribly wrong. Overall then, the cars look great, they feel fantastic, and they are really fun to whip around a new circuit. They're forgiving enough to let you do a little bit of rubbing of your opponents who may well be quite close to you, but they're not going to allow you to tank it through everyone in the pack. You are actually going to have to use some finesse. Along with the cars, we have a few new tracks brought to us for the first time, officially at least, in rFactor. We have Brands Hatch in all its glory, both the Grand Prix and the almost oval Indy circuit. Also alongside for the ride are Donington GP, the National Circuit, Croft and Thruxton. All of these tracks have been given some first-party love with the finest paintbrush that rFactor has to offer, and honestly, it does show. The game has never looked so good, and in Brands Hatch, the circuit is available in many other sims. It is one of the best versions of it that I have seen to date. Donington Park has been given similar treatment, and again, it looks stellar. I'm always a fan of that circuit when driven on the national layout, but the Grand Prix circuit is also really, really good to feel driving through. It's one of my favourite circuits. That's the biggest highlight from me from a track perspective, and also the tracks that I'm quite bad at driving, to be honest, are Croft, Broxton. I've driven neither circuit in recent memory, so I was more than a little bit shaky going around here, as you can see as I'm showing you footage. Broxton is the fastest circuit in the UK and needs equal parts bravery and skill to get around rapidly without serious injury to yourself or your car. Even the virtual version of this can be scary at times. Croft has a combination of tight and twisty and some flowing corners thrown in for good measure. Getting into a rhythm is tricky around Croft, but it is pivotal to actually being fast around the track. For me, I find the very tight final corner particularly challenging when it comes to getting in some sort of flow. When you mess that up, you also mess up the front straight, slowing down your next lap. Yay! So far, so good then with the new content added for BTCC in rFactor 2. The cars are stunning and fun to drive. The circuits have a charm that some of us vaguely remember from the good old days of TOCA, but with an injection of modern graphics and physics. Locking up the front wheels in a front-wheel drive car is challenging and sometimes a little scary as the wall is coming towards you. But that's all part of the fun. And this is all without racing in a type BTCC is known for. Mix into that LFM's involvement and you have a recipe for some really serious tin-top fun. Things aren't all perfect, however. We have some notable omissions circuit-wise like Silverstone, Knockhill and Snetterton. The Honda Civic isn't with us yet, but it is coming soon, and the liveries right now are quite limited. Some of these things are soon on the horizon for us, however, as I've just said. No mention of circuits just yet, but you can be sure some of those are going to be popping along quite quickly. And we can't have the likes of Silverstone missing from a BTCC championship now, can we? With the soon arrival of the Civic content, we'll also be getting the BTCC 2022 rules in terms of the hybrid boost technology. Now, this will allow us to more realistically reflect on how that championship deals with trying to balance out different cars and drivers, but it also will add, for us at least, a level of immersion that we've yet to see. Probably the most exciting change for me, and honestly, I shouldn't be excited about this. This is something that the likes of iRacing done forever, and that is that you can race against content that you do not own. Now, why I'm excited about this is it should mean that we can flesh out the BTCC Championship in LFM with many more drivers that only have to buy one or two cars rather than every single one in the championship. Bigger audiences mean that we hopefully will get more driving going. rFactor then is looking in a pretty strong position right now. Let's just hope that they can keep this momentum going for the future. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this quick run through of the content that rFactor has added for the BTCC Championship, and if you have, don't forget to like this video. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, don't forget to support me by subscribing, and I'll leave you with some footage of the various circuits and cars. So until next time, guys, goodbye for now.